Welcome, everybody. Welcome to US Fan TV. I am Chris, and joining me tonight is TJ because Pat is sick. Sorry about missing Tuesday. Pat was sick then as well, and my girlfriend's been in the hospital, so we've been a little preoccupied and unable to join you guys. But here we are tonight, and sounds like TJ has an extra visitor tonight, or maybe not. Say hi, TJ.
Hey, how's it going? And of course, Mary Grace is with me, and she says hi if you didn't hear her before. So,
Welcome, Mary Grace. Tonight we'll be talking about one Wayne Roon-ah, possibly on his way to MLS. Bruce Arena continues to shit on U.S. soccer. What do we think of his latest comments from his coming book? We'll probably talk about Tom Ricketts joining or creating a team in USL in Chicago. And we'll see what else you guys got to talk about. I guess first up, since it's timely, what do you think, TJ, of Wayne Rooney possibly joining DC United? His people are supposedly over here working on it. MLS transfer window doesn't open until July, but all the rumors certainly make it sound like he's going to join up.
that's fine. It is what it is. It's no. I feel like the LA Galaxy got a really smoking deal on Zlatan when you're looking at Rooney for about 15 or 16 million. I don't know how much that's transfer, how much of that's salary, but that's the number they're throwing out there. It's fine. It is what it is. DC United has a new park. They want to have somebody who draws people into their new park this fall. And really, aside from that, he's still got some mileage. Yeah, he's not as good as he once was. He's still pretty solid. Was he Everton's top scorer right up there this year?
He is this season. So it's not like he's completely washed up. I don't know that you're going to see him, in a sense, pull a Zlatan. But, I think he'll probably be better than, say, Gerrard was in MLS. Will he be along the lines of Thierry Henry? I would tend to say no. Um, he does. He's certainly on the downside of his career, as all these guys that have come over are. But it's not like he wasn't making a contribution for Everton this season. He's certainly lost minutes since Sam Allardyce took over, but
That
it's been to his unhappiness. But I think maybe, I mean, as much as I don't necessarily like to agree with Sam Allardyce, I kind of think maybe that is sort of a better role for him at this point because he doesn't have the speed to truly keep up, and he does still have an understanding of the game, a view of the game that a lot of other players don't have. So maybe dropping him back a little bit into midfield where he can support other players is a better move.
perhaps. I feel like Rooney might have been better suited for Chicago, and hear me out. Not that the Fire would ever pay for him, but anybody who's been down 294 can tell you the billboards with the hair restoration of Brian Urlacher and Ryan Sandberg. So I think Rooney would have been a perfect one to make that a triumvirate, and then you've got the hair restore of all three of them. Now that said, last I checked, Big Sam knows a thing or two about soccer. If Big Sam thinks it's a good idea, usually it is. Big Sam mouthing off in the media, another story. But that said, like I said, Big Sam knows what he's doing. Yeah, Rooney didn't score as many goals, but like I said, he can still play. Will he be Henry? Probably not. Will he be Zlatan? Zlatan, Henry, they're all kind of pretty good comparisons. It's the question is you hear is retirement league. Is it really a retirement league in that sense? Or retirement league to me thinks more of Lothar Matthäus.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Javi Hernandez? Guys that were really washed up that were
Yeah,
getting a little bit to play. These guys are, I think, taking one last payday
yeah,
for a little bit less stress. They
yeah.
can either be a squad rotation player for a decent Premier League team or a team that plays in Europe, or they can come over to MLS and start
Yeah,
play,
it's their last chance to be a star, basically.
and they can do it in a little bit of peace and quiet. And
And
the
in
one I
places where they all tend to like, one of the places a lot of them tend to go on their uh, during their time off. So it is the chance to go. In many cases, kind of live in the I don't know, the myth that people have of America, and it's not terrible when you got money. So I see it as sort of a chance for a lot of these guys. I understand, like Zero Anonymity has said, he's tired of washed up has-beens. I understand it. Certainly, there have been players who have come over who, like Gerard, just didn't have it anymore. Should have hung it up when they finished their European career. But is it? And well, I guess the other side of that too, the other point I understand is they are also standing in the way of these young players who could be getting time. It's telling when you see more young players getting time in Germany than you do in more young Americans, I should say, getting time in Germany than you do in the U.S. But at the same time, look, fans like to see these players. It gives them one last chance to get paid and be a star. So I understand why they do it. It's maybe not necessarily the greatest thing for the larger picture, the broadest picture, but whatever. It's not the end of the world. I tend to think Rooney will look a bit like, say, Beckham near the end of his MLS career. My biggest gripe about Beckham was always that people expected him to be the best player in MLS. I didn't even feel he was the best player on his own team.
No,
if you could accept him as that,
he was playing with
fine.
Landon at his peak, really.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't the best player in the galaxy. He was and David Beckham and Wayne Rooney will be what Wayne Rooney is. When you think fleet of foot, you never think Wayne Rooney. When you think of a guy who can find space and hit out and score goals, Wayne Rooney can do that. I mean, that's the same with Beckham. If you expected Beckham to be a box-to-box midfielder, tracking all the way back and forth, outrunning, I'm pretty sure you could outrun Beckham, Chris.
Once upon a time, I was pretty fast, so that's not terrible to say.
No, I've known you 30 years. No.
Shut up. Yes, I was. There was never a team I played on where I was ever slower than second fastest. Anyway. Okay, move on. Bruce Arena. Bruce is out with a new book. What is wrong with US? Or what is wrong with us? It's an interesting take. The guy who 6 months ago was saying that despite the day which will live in infamy, we don't really need to tear down everything to continue the growth of U.S. soccer. We're going to be just fine. Now says basically that U.S. soccer is all crap. The leaders don't know what they're doing. The players aren't good enough. He says this book isn't about making excuses for what happened, but it sure sounds like it. TJ, I see. I was going to say I can take a moment and continue talking.
No, you could. Well, Chris, you could talk all night. Really, if you needed, you could talk all night if you really needed to.
I probably could.
No, I'm not really sure what Bruce is trying to gain out of this, other than to sell books and make some money. Because you're 100% spot on. Bruce 6 months ago, even 3 months ago, no, they don't need to rebuild. Oh, never mind. Now I need to sell books, so now I'm going to say it's all crap and what was going wrong with it. If it was all crap to begin with and you needed all these young players, the young players are out there. They were in Germany. They were elsewhere. Why didn't he go get them? Because he was stuck in his ways. And maybe he's seen the light now. I doubt it. I think he's just trying to sell some books, and controversy is what sells books.
One of the reviews I read about it was kind of fitting for a number of arguments that or discussions that I guess I've been a part of or listened to over the last couple of weeks. And they were saying that he's kind of fallen into this baby boomer trap of they want to claim that everything's terrible and it needs to be fixed, but they don't want to accept that it's terrible because they've been running it. Like you can't say that everything around you is bad, but all the people that you've been working with have been leading it. And then go, they need me to fix it or something. You can't avoid indicting yourself when you indict all the same people at the same time.
I'm going to go out and say something I rarely say, and I feel really sick to my stomach when I say it. Chris is right. That was a really good analogy with the baby boomers. Does Bruce
Well,
qualify as one of those?
technically, that didn't come. I think so. 46. I think he was born in. Is that right?
Well, if he's born in 40, is he in his 70s?
You know what? I wonder if there was a machine that could tell us this.
You could look that up. Well, sorry, I don't have a free hand to do that right now. But
He
that
is
said,
66. He was born in 51.
okay. But your point is 100. Yeah, so I guess he is. Yeah, is that a
He's a
boomer? Is
baby
that
boomer. Yeah,
yeah?
yeah, he's a baby boomer.
But that
Boomer.
that's it's spot on. I don't know, like you said, if that's not your own take and you found it and adopted it, that's fine too. But that Bruce had to be the one to fix it, and he couldn't fix it, so now it's really broke.
Basically, yeah.
Okay. Oh, I guess that's probably not far. Didn't Jurgen sound like he was the same way too, though?
In a sense, yeah. And I think it's what every coach says or what every person says when you want to, take on a new job. You always want to make it sound like there's a problem, so there's something for you to fix. It's the same thing every politician does. Having said that, Bruce can't go defend all these people for so long, or say that so much didn't need to change, and then suddenly reverse course and throw everyone else under the bus. At some point, you either have to accept some responsibility for yourself, or you got to kind of admit what's going on. That you're just covering your own ass, basically. This is just CYA.
And yeah, apple juice, and you're quintessential boomer. It's everybody's. It's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault. Yeah. Apple juice is also 100% 100% right. He's very
Yes.
much a smackable face.
um, he also claims, and well, actually, first I'll say his thing about U.S. soccer being led by people who don't understand soccer was kind of part of our point in the election. So it's not a terrible point, except that he was excusing all these people prior to 6 months ago. And if things had worked out for him, do you think he'd be saying, well, they managed to still pick the right guy? Like, come on. If they didn't know what they were doing, how did they just stumble across him?
Because they didn't know what the hell they were doing. I guess the argument would be made.
Well, and that's kind of it. I guess that's sort of my point. You can either you say they did know what they were doing because you were the right man for the job, or you weren't the right man for the job, and it's just further evidence that they didn't know what they were doing. But he's still saying that basically he was the right man for the job. So that's, I guess, where my sort of BS meter pings. The other point, one of the big points he makes, he claims the 2002 team was far superior to last year's team, just like up and down the board. We've been over this plenty of times. It's debatable. There are a number of players on the 2002 team who I think would still be here. That said, the rest of that team was not better than the rest of the 2017 team. The 12 through 23 players were not as good. Maybe 12 through 22, because I would say the goalkeepers were probably still better.
Yeah, that was Friedel and Keller, pretty much
Yeah.
at peak Friedel and Keller. So
Yeah.
yeah, the goalkeepers were better.
I might say that I would probably say that Pete Keller still is maybe third best ever, but I'm sorry, Friedel's our best keeper ever, and probably if you put all together, maybe our best player to come out of the U.S. to date.
Wow, that one I'm going to struggle with. Brad Friedel's World Cup in 2002 was absolutely amazing. There's no two ways about it. But is he the best? Yeah, the best goalkeeper ever? Really? Tony Meola.
Oh, I'd still put Friedel above. Friedel, Meola was more of a reaction keeper, like Keller, um, like Tim Howard. Um, Friedel was a well-positioned keeper. Friedel could also actually like play the ball a little bit. I mean, granted, it was an era in which you didn't, so it's harder to evaluate some of that. Keepers weren't. I guess short of you were playing for Colombia, keepers weren't out playing in the field generally. But I don't know. I think that to me, there's a reason why Friedel played as long as he did at the level he did.
No, I don't disagree with you on that. Brad Friedel's ability to read a game was second to none. No, that's true. But my counter to that argument is he only started in one World Cup. And I still think, like I said, Tony Meola had a lot less talent in front of him all the way through and kept
That's
them in
true. That's
games.
true.
And you're at that point you're splitting hairs. I would put them both a step above Casey Keller. I know Casey Keller started multiple World Cups. Yes, Casey Keller was a great shot stopper. Casey Keller didn't win them games though, and I felt like Friedel, and especially in that
He did
2002
kind of
World Cup.
lose us that Czech game, that Czech Republic game in
Yes,
2006.
and
Yikes.
you could still go back on YouTube and find it. It was a qualifier against Mexico where Casey Keller in the first minute or second minute, it just absolutely screws one up with his feet, and then Mexico goes up 1-0. And I to this
Yeah,
day, that's always my memory of Keller.
he was not strong with the ball at his feet. I mean that was to me always his weakest point. I mean, you could say that of like Tim Howard too, that ball at his feet is his weakness, or is his weakness. While the guy can throw a ball like 50 or 60 yards on a dime, he can't make like a 30-yard pass. So that's his weakness. Keller was subpar, I think you could say, with the ball at his feet.
Oh,
But
you could just say he
he was a
sucked.
great shot stopper. He
Just say it
sucked.
for what it is. He sucked.
He sucked
Not
with the
being nice,
ball
he
at his
sucked.
feet. His goal kicks would just go sailing out of bounds or straight to the other team. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so I guess to sum this up, take a look at the book. It comes out shortly if you want. I don't know if I want to read it or not. Like I don't know if I to me, I'm afraid it will just cause me to get angry about things that I don't need to get angry about, or just to have to sit and think about last fall.
Well,
And
then
I
we
think
need,
I've made it pretty
okay.
clear I hate doing that.
If that's the case, we do need to start a GoFundMe to buy Chris Bruce Arena's book because there is nothing funnier than when you melt down.
Maybe I'd read it with a camera in front of me. Turn the GoPro on and just what the I saw Anthony commenting on in 2010, living in London. Everyone commented that our team played better than some of its parts. I mean, really, that's kind of always been the case about the U.S. That was really the problem, I think, with the last qualifying campaign was we weren't, or maybe we were just the sum of our parts in that case. I don't know. It did seem like we were playing less than we ever were. Up until that point, we've always sort of played over our heads. We've been a better team than we were individual players. Individual players, we are, I don't know, maybe at best a top 50 team in the world. Maybe not even that. Maybe top 75. But collectively, we've been, say, a top 30, sometimes a top 20 team in the world. There are times during our tenure, like 2009-ish or so, where on our day we could beat anyone. Having said that, there were also games in which we could lose to anyone. I mean, there was the Confederations Cup beating Spain and going up 2-0 on Brazil in the first half. We sure gave up that game quickly, but there were moments of greatness in that team, and I don't think that by and large their skill warranted them to play that well. Donovan was at the basically top of his game. It was probably the best that Bradley, short of MLS Bradley, recently. It's probably the best Bradley played in a national team uniform was from about 2009 to maybe 14, 2008 or 9 to 2012, somewhere in there. Um, you know, those two on the field alone, Howard was at probably the top of his game, or right around there. There were some very good U.S. players and some guys that we'll talk about for a long time. Um, but still, I'd say you'd probably consider they were playing as greater than the sum of their parts.
So you're going to buy the book at the end of the day?
Not if I can help it.
So you're just going to wait to borrow Pat's copy of it? Pat will buy it.
Oh, he's gonna buy it. Yeah. If I was gonna take a long trip or something, maybe I'd like download it and read it on the plane or something. I don't know, but I I can't see myself actually sitting down to watch it. When do I mean to read it? When do I actually have that much time to sit with a book, especially one that I don't want to read, that I already will go into thinking, God, what am I going to be pissed off about next? Even knowing that it would give me fodder to come on here and talk about, I just look at it as it's going to make me angry for nothing. I will get nothing out of it.
You'd have a good couple of shows out of it, though.
Yeah, yeah. The silence in this conversation would be covered by hat guys yawning normally. Well played, Zero Anonymity.
Yeah,
He also says he's staring into my eyes. He sees nothing behind them. That's true. There's nothing behind my eyes. Just dead. Everything's dead. or that I'm dumb. I don't know.
well, you're that, but then again, so am I. So it kind of works out well. All
And
right.
and now they're debating the color of my eyes. That's awesome. I'm just gonna do the rest of this show with my eyes closed. Jules asks, while you had to take care of Mary Grace, I was rambling there for a few minutes. So I talked about the Confederations Cup 2009. Jules asks, was the 2-0 win against that Spain team the greatest result in U.S. history? It's certainly up there. If it wasn't the Confederations Cup, I would say absolutely. I would say probably the win over Argentina in the Copa America in '95 was that? Probably takes that. Maybe you could say the Gold Cup against Brazil. But that's
the win against Mexico and Korea. Or in Japan.
Yeah.
Japan.
Oh, yeah.
The
Damn,
win
I
against
didn't even think about
Portugal. That Portugal team was supposed to be at their peak too.
That Mexico game is huge though, and with its place. Oh man,
Was that
it's certainly I think it's probably the most talented team we've ever beaten.
Yeah,
because especially at that time, like Jesus, I mean, like a murderer's row of players on that team.
Yeah, Bammer's saying that Portugal game. Because that Portugal game was peak. That team was supposed to be at their peak. And considering it wasn't the Confederations Cup, that it was the actual World Cup, you could make the argument that was the one. Because if they don't win that game, obviously they don't make the knockout.
They don't move on. Yeah.
But even still, even if they don't win that game and they make the knockout round, they aren't flying high like they would be, and going into that game against Mexico, almost expecting to win, coming out playing that way and stepping on Mexico's throat essentially in that game. So maybe the first Dos Cero game in Columbus.
I don't consider that the greatest game ever. It was one of the greatest games I've ever attended. Oh no, I take that back. I wasn't at the first one because Guerra Fria, the one in February. I wasn't at the very first one. I was at the second, third, and fourth.
I don't know. I've been to one.
Is that right?
The result was not good.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about that. We'll ignore that, just like we did. Pretty much ignore everything over the last year and a half, 2 years now. So yeah, I don't know if that game was the greatest ever. Did you guys talk about Pulisic moving to Man U? That's new enough. You guys didn't talk about it last week, right?
Did we do a show last week?
Did you? I don't know. I was in Florida.
No, we didn't do a show last. No, we did not do a show last week.
I tried to tune in and watch on Tuesday. I saw you didn't do one then, but then I was busy after that and I never saw anything. Pulisic to Man U. I don't want it to happen. I guess I can understand why it might. If I were Dortmund, would I trade him and money for Martial? Well, trade Martial and money for Pulisic? No. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think Martial is just in a bad situation. I think it just kind of doesn't fit with the team and the way that why am I drawing a blank on their coach?
And Jose Mourinho.
Thank you. I just don't see him as fitting with like what Mourinho wants of that team right now. but the guy is damn good. Uh, so I don't know. I mean, you'd certainly be tempted to take him and money. Probably Dortmund could find a way to use him, but I don't want to see Pulisic go there.
No,
But
Man United
supposedly
might be
he's a United fan, so
Man United would be one of the last places I'd want to see Pulisic go because exactly that. Mourinho does not allow creativity.
yeah.
He's you are in his system, and that's the way life is. But if I'm Dortmund, I make that move in a heartbeat. I think Martial is lost in that system, and I think he'd be fine with Dortmund, especially when you're getting money with it. I don't think there's that much of a difference between the two. That Pulisic, that there should be money thrown in, but hey, if that's the way the deals are going to go, then that's the way the deal's going to go. Ideally,
Except that Martial, his stock's down. Pulisic's is still on the upswing. Pulisic's younger. You're hoping that the trajectory is going to take him up. I mean, I get the idea, especially in this current market where the value of players is
stupid,
ridiculous. It's kind of inconceivable because it's just sort of like make up a number and somebody will come up with it. So I don't know, but I don't want to see him go there.
No.
I don't. To me, I would rather see him continue to grow in his creative abilities than in his defensive capabilities, and that's pretty much what would have to happen if he's going to play at United.
Yeah, I mean we've talked about this before. I think ideally, if he's going to the Premier League, Liverpool would be the ideal landing spot because it puts him back with Klopp. And other than that, Bayern maybe.
It makes sense to have him go to Bayern. They are looking to replace Robin, so this would sort of be the time because Robin I think gets one more year. I think they've extended his career for his contract for one more year, so you got some time to play under him and train. And I think Pat brought it up as saying kind of best case scenario, Pulisic's long-term trajectory is to essentially be like another Arjen Robben. I kind of can't disagree with that. It could be a really good winger, and I don't think it's terrible to go practice alongside Robben and try to become his long-term replacement. And you're at a killer team.
Well, and if that's his career trajectory, that's not a bad one to be following.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Yeah,
he doesn't have to be Messi to just be amazing and to be the greatest player the U.S. has produced to this point.
Well, no, and
possibly ever,
and likely ever is presuming there's no injuries, presuming he hasn't plateaued already.
Yeah.
Kind of like you, just peaked too soon. That said, no, going to Bayern, it fulfill Dortmund's obligation that once a year they have to send their best player over to Bayern.
Yeah.
So
pretty much, right?
So yeah, to Chelsea out on loan. Well, that's everybody goes to Chelsea goes out on loan just about. So that would kind of make sense too. Yeah. So what else do we got, Chris?
Daniel is asking, do you think we have a good chance of hosting the 2026 World Cup? I can't tell. It seems every day there's something new that swings the opinion one way or the other. On the one hand, it sounds more and more like FIFA's trying to rig it, so we have to get it. I think even as kind of open as I think this ploy was, saying you're going to make $14 billion or whatever it was off of this World Cup, kind of a big sales pitch from our bid.
And this is and we've talked about this time and time again, and that's where our bid fits. I get it. It's more money than they're ever going to see in that sense. I get it. FIFA loves a good infrastructure project because that's where they make all their members, their voting members, make all their money in kickbacks and bribes. Now that said, though, where the U.S. has the stadiums that they're all going to be 70,000 plus, where one of the problems for hosting in Chicago is Soldier Field isn't big enough. All the stadiums they're looking at are 70, 80,000 plus, at least in the United States. And that's 10,000 more seats at, how much ahead, how many suites that they can sell out. Algeria doesn't have that. That's where that 14,
Morocco,
or
but yeah.
Morocco, sorry.
That said, there are a lot of countries that aren't going to vote on money or, well, they're not going to vote on legal money, and that aren't going to vote on who they may truly believe would host the best World Cup. They're going to vote on who they like right now. And I don't know, Donald Trump coming out in support of our World Cup and then kind of threatening other countries to vote for us. Not exactly the support we want. I don't think that's going to help sway many minds in our favor. So there are an awful lot of little countries that may have an awful lot of little gripes or grievances that would get them to not vote for the U.S. So I don't know what to believe. It does seem like Gianni Infantino, not as I always say, Gianni, not yet indicted Infantino, is kind of trying to stack the deck for the U.S. But there are an awful lot of countries that don't want to see the U.S. get something else. So,
Well,
and that,
and how
want to
many
punish want to
and how
punish
many of
us.
these
So
heads of these federations are afraid to step foot on U.S. soil for fear of being picked up by the Justice Department? Never forget that. The number of them who can't set foot in the U.S. because the Justice Department already has them and is waiting for them.
yeah.
A couple people I've seen it a couple times now. Tyler Adams to Monaco.
Oh yeah. I was monitoring that that last week. I haven't checked on it since then. Um, it's certainly interesting. I love the idea of Adams moving to Europe. It does, I suppose, throw a wrinkle into does he play in some of the friendlies that might occur this summer because he could, in theory, be moving or want to avoid injury or be trying to earn a spot somewhere else. So there is the chance. I mean, granted, the transfer window doesn't open till July, so he is around at least for the next 3 games, and you presume that he'll be there. I'll give a hint on one of the players that I've got in my 23 for the coming friendlies, but I don't know. I mean, I haven't watched. I don't watch the French league enough to say, oh yeah, no, he totally fit with them. I have no idea.
No, and I don't either. I can't see it being a step down. I mean, it is what it is. It'd be a good. The key to any of these moves is, it'd be great to have him go play for a big club, but you got to play. If you go and you sit, you're not getting it. And playing for the reserves is not the same. You need to play with the first team. You need to get first team minutes or close to it. You can't go and just be buried on the roster. That's not going to develop. That's where, if you're going to go get buried, you're better off staying in MLS at that point. But that's what I've noticed through the time. These guys take the money and go to Europe. Great. But if you don't play, you're not doing your career any good. And how many of them have done that and then come back for that very reason? So,
yeah.
And Chris, you've lost your hipster status because you don't watch the French league. Now, then again, neither do I. So,
it's on. What is it? It's on.
It's on BN.
BN, right? Yeah, I don't get BN anymore, so I can't watch that or La Liga unless I go to a bar. I had to go to a bar last weekend to watch El Clasico. Somebody, let me see who it was, asked if I saw Bergkamp play. I missed it as it went by. Now I can't find it. No, I never actually saw Bergkamp in person. I had to go to the bar. The one game I made in that era at Highbury, he didn't play, so he was there, but no, unfortunately, I didn't get to actually see him play. It was one of Patrick Vieira's first matches. It was like his third match at Arsenal, something like that, third, fourth, I don't remember. Ian Wright played. I wanted to name my first child Ian Henry for Ian Wright and Thierry Henry, but that was I got the Knicks from from his mom. My ex-wife did not go for that.
I guess we're not real fans. Apple Juice says because we don't watch the Chinese league.
Right.
You know, I get called the soccer hipster, and even I don't watch the Chinese league. So
Speaking of small time leagues, uh, so Tom Ricketts buying his way into USL in Chicago, the owner of the Chicago Cubs. A lot of people in Chicago seem excited about this. They're going to be building a new stadium, so I guess somewhere on the north side.
Lincoln Square,
Um,
it's going to be
okay,
in which is the name. If you were going to drop a stadium in the perfect place to have a stadium and make it where everybody can get to it via mass transit and everything else, Lincoln Square would be right up near the top of the list. It's a wonderful location. Now, that said, they're putting a 20,000 seat stadium in there. That's awesome. There better be a second play behind this because drawing 20,000 for the USL in a city that
not
already has
likely.
MLS, you know, I just don't see them packing it in for that game against Penn FC or Atlanta United 2 or Bethlehem Steel, which is, I just, I don't see that. The Ottawa Fury, that great matchup of Chicago USL against the Ottawa Fury. Yeah. Um, I'm hoping there's a second play behind this because as it stands, and it's funny is everybody's like, well, the location, nobody likes going to Bridgeview and all that. If you live in the city, you don't like going to Bridgeview. Going to Bridgeview on a weeknight sucks because there's no mass transit to get there. I get that.
55 is a pain in the ass to get there.
Right. But for somebody like me who does live out in the suburbs and Pat who lives out in the suburbs, I know other people. Bridgeview is easier to get to for us. It is for anybody who lives in
That's
the
true.
suburbs. And then the other part of it is
Many of their fans, though, the hardcore people like from Section 8 don't live out in the suburbs, though.
correct. But ideally, though, the ones that spend the money are not the Section 8 people.
Yeah, yeah.
They live in the suburbs. The other part of it is you get around the stadium. If you have a stadium in Lincoln Square, you've now taken away a revenue stream that every owner likes to have: parking. And lots of parking. Bridgeview, for all the complaints about the lot not being paved, Bridgeview is fun to go and tailgate. I mean, you go out there and you see that, and that's kind of the argument. What's the atmosphere you want? Do you want people to come out and tailgate before the game, or do you just want them to go to the bars and then go into the stadium? If you own all the bars in the neighborhood around it, great. But if you don't, then and it's this kind of the same thing with like Wrigley Field. I believe the Ricketts own most of the rooftops that they now set. That's why that
Yeah.
became less of an issue, is they own the rooftops, those buildings. So it's the same thing. It's the bars are going to make all the money instead of you're going to make it on parking and people in the stadium. But like I said, it's a great location, but I don't see it be unless there's a second play behind it to buy the Fire and bring them to that stadium or anything like that. I don't know. I'm not sure what the 20,000 are going to continually go to a stadium in Lincoln Square to watch some of these matchups. Maybe the Indy 11 people show up for, maybe St. Louis they show up for, FC Cincinnati, maybe. But can you see yourself going down there, Chris, to go see the mighty Riverhounds of Pittsburgh against USL Soccer?
No. I've seen the drawings of the stadium. It does look nice. I would certainly be interested in checking it out. Would it be a regular thing for me? I doubt it. Um, I I mean, personally, because of my aversion to the Cubs, I'm not exactly a huge fan of the Ricketts family owning, I don't know, anything. But I will say I'm not really a fan of the current ownership of the Fire. I mean, the Fire are looking up, so maybe Hauptman is changing his tune or has changed his tune. But he's not committed to like making this a winner. He's not going to make that team a challenger to for another title anytime soon. So could this be a move to either setting a stake to potentially buy the Fire down the line, or to replace the fire in some way. It's not a terrible thing.
No, and although here's and I think I've pontificated on this in the past with what I think happened with Hauptmann buying the fire back when he did. And I've said this before. The problem with Bridgeview is it's a shitty lease. It's a shitty lease for
Oh
the
yeah,
fire.
yeah.
And it's a shitty lease for the village of Bridgeview. It ranks up there with the lease that the Coyotes have in Glendale as the worst lease in sports. Nobody makes money, and it just destroys the city that built it. There's a reason why these tiny suburbs don't build stadiums like that. Now, I shouldn't say it. Glendale's 250,000, but Bridgeview had no business building that stadium. I don't know what the numbers were, so nobody makes money on it. The other part of it is, by the time Hauptmann came in to buy the fire, the team was pretty well stripped down. They were still winning on the field, but the corporate money wasn't there. And I think that's where they struggled, because you had to rebuild like infrastructure, get corporate money back in before you could start looking at trying to build a roster. But even that said, they never were like the bottom payroll in the league. They were always somewhere middle to upper middle, which I get it. You're the third largest market. You should be spending a lot more, but who's to say it's just that you had crappy people running the team. Once it got old, it got crappy, and then you've got to rebuild. I feel like they're starting to make progress in that aspect, that you're seeing a lot more younger players. Yes, anonymity. It's Lincoln Yards, not Lincoln Square. Bite me. Go get your own show. So, I don't know. But like I said,
people say I'm the arrogant one.
No, I'm an asshole. I fully admit that. But like, other than to go see the stadium because it's going to be a cool stadium in a cool place, I just don't see it as a destination to go watch soccer other than that. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, at least there's other things around, say, before or after the game, besides simply tailgating. That's the one, I think, drawback really to Toyota Park. Like, it's a nice stadium. It's a really nice stadium. And yeah, it's cool to tailgate beforehand, but it's like afterwards, unless you're going to Portillo's, like, what the hell is there to do around there? Go get a tattoo?
I don't know. Go visit Resurrection Mary.
Yeah, yeah. While we're on Chicago Fire Fan TV or whatever, Chicago Soccer Fan TV, as TJ Salas says, what are your thoughts on Fernando Torres to the Fire? I think that sounds like a retirement league move to me. I can see why the Fire could use him. That said, I don't know. I don't think the guy's been that good since he was with Liverpool.
And that was where I was going to go with it. Wayne Rooney still has some gas in the tank. Is it a full tank anymore? No. It's on the second half. Zlatan, well, he's Zlatan, so he's always got a full tank of gas whenever he wants. Schweinsteiger, still has got some. Torres has been crap for Atletico, and no, I don't understand it. Is he better than Nikolic at this point? My thought is no. But it sounds like Nelson Rodriguez wants him and is willing to pay for him. And although it sounds like the two reports I hear really are conflicting. It sounds like he's going to that he's already made the deal with Montreal. But the other thing I've heard is he wanted to go to a warmer climate, and I was hearing Houston earlier, like maybe last week. So which one is it? Or are these all nothing then to extort more money out of the Fire, which if he can get it, great, good for you. Will he make them better? Yes. Is he going to make them an MLS Cup champion? Fuck no. So, easy enough?
Sounds about right. As I said, I brought up our predictions for the 23 versus France, Bolivia, and Ireland coming up in a few weeks. We'll talk about those on Tuesday. I gave away at least one of them when I said Tyler Adams. I think you can guess at least two or three of the others who will probably be there. My general thoughts is I'll give a little teaser about this. I want to see a number of the guys from the March friendly, plus kind of our coming stars, growing stars, potential stars that are already in Europe and couldn't come play because because they're too significant to their teams altogether.
I guess I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to make one prediction for the 23. Christian Pulisic.
I think that's a strong one.
There's a chance on that one.
Yeah. If you said something like Weston McKennie, I might nod my head at that too. But yeah, whatever. I think we've covered all the questions, all the comments. Iniesta should come to MLS. Yeah, he's going to China. That's the word. But I wouldn't. I wouldn't. He's one of those guys that I think would still be amazing to put in MLS and would actually make a team much, much better.
China. When you talk about I see the retirement league going back and forth. China is a retirement league. Saudi Arabia or Qatar or whatever league that's a retirement league. Yeah. MLS, yes and no. I think that's a one last payday and a chance to live in the United States, which a lot of these players don't mind doing because they're not as much under the microscope. But do we want to talk about Rocco's $500 million offer to U.S. Soccer as long as he's still trying to buy his way in, or do we just want to say, nah, Rocco, you're an idiot, move on?
Have at it. This is the one that requires pro rel, right?
Yeah, it requires pro rel. He wants to start his own league. Basically, it sounds like the three that were left over from NASL are going to fund it. Would be $500 million total. $250 is going to be his, but they need to be able to own more than one team, and basically, they'll build pop-up stadiums or temporary stadiums or whatever, and build a new league. But they need to be exempt from standards for a number of years, and there has to be pro rel for U.S. Soccer to get it. I don't think it's funny and Carlos was out of the country lobbying at that point. He didn't exactly rush back, and I just don't see it being a high priority. I think it was something that Rocco feels like he needed to get himself in the news.
Maybe.
So, that's about all I had on that. I didn't really have much other than it made me laugh. I'm like, let's wait for the details. And it set soccer Twitter on fire for a day, and then everybody's like, yeah, no. So, but it is all one vast conspiracy. It is Soccer United marketing that is screwing everything over. We know it's a conspiracy. They're holding down the NASL. They're holding down the man.
Pro rel would save us.
That shirt will make its debut next week, by the way. It showed up today. And if anybody doesn't know what I'm talking about, I will wear it next week. Look for Uncle Ted's on Twitter. There is an outstanding shirt that just mocks mocks tinfoil Ted.
All right, Alex, I think on that note, what?
I was going to say, Alex, no, we can blame Kathy Carter, because then just to hear Chris go, ooh, shit, Kathy Carter.
Kathy Carter. Ooh, shit, Kathy Carter.
I'm going to make my own league with hookers and blackjack. I think TJ Salo has just hit peak US Fan TV.
Yeah, well played, TJ. I think on that note, we've hit the wall here. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us again. We'll see you come Tuesday. You can, of course, check us out on @USFanTV on Twitter. Pretty much the same place at Facebook, Instagram, probably on YouTube, but I guess you'd know that. We are not on Snapchat because, of course, we hate Snapchat.
You're on Snapchat. Shut up.
Whatever. I'm not on Snapchat. I mean, technically, I guess I have an account, but I used it like once, and that was like 2 years ago or whatever it was when I was trying to figure it out for work. As I've told way too many times, I'm tired of talking about that. We're done. Yes, feel better, Hat Guy. Hopefully, Hat Guy will be back come Tuesday. Feel better to my girlfriend, who is in the hospital as we speak. She's supposed to be out tomorrow, so good for her. And on that note, TJ, any last words?
You're done.
Thanks. You're done, everybody.